Hi, everyone who's joining. Hi, welcome to the room. Hi, everyone. Going to give it just a couple more seconds to let some people come in from their last panels. What a day of amazing programming it's been for everyone. I hope you've all enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed moderating a few panels, tuning in here and there. So I hope you've all learned a lot and gotten inspired by a lot, because this is the big finish, at least for the beauty track. And I'm so excited for this discussion, because it really is, I think, going to be an incredible one. And so I guess without further ado, welcome everyone to our Beauty Boss Spotlight. We are talking with the co-founder and COO of Credo Beauty, which is one of the most important, I'd say, companies in the beauty industry right now, having the conversation that I think is probably the most important conversation we can have in beauty. It's about our health, it's about our planet. And I'm really so excited to be joined by the incredible Annie Jackson. Annie, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to get to talk to you.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And before we get this conversation going, just a few very quick housekeeping notes that I'm sure all of you in this room have heard many times today already, but this discussion is going to be tape recorded. So if you don't get a chance to tune in here live, you can view it again. Anyone can view it again, because I'm sure there'll be so many great tidbits that Annie will say that you'll want to maybe come back and view it again. And just a big thank you to our presenting sponsor, Mary Kay, and our other sponsors. We really appreciate it. So without further ado, Annie, you've really had a big career. You've worked at some of the biggest and best. You were at Sephora, and then you launched Credo. And did I read this correctly? Am I correct that you were an intern once at Estee Lauder? Is that correct?
Basically, no, I actually was an admin. And so I started there when I was 19 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, basically I was the girl that went and fetched people, John Dempsey, who I love and admire so much. He at the time was the head of our Estee Lauder regional office. And I was the one that would trek out and go get his tea with lemon and, prepare the binders, because none of us used computers back then. It was 1991 to really date myself. So yeah, basically my paycheck definitely reflected intern status for sure.
Did you always want to work in beauty, Annie? Was that something that always appealed to you?
No, I mean, I was just a kid. I mean, to be totally honest, I had a very unorthodox landing into Estee Lauder to be candid. I always had, my parents always told me I had wings, and like, I was always ready to like, just go and get out, and I just couldn't wait. Yeah. And so I graduated early from high school and I moved to the Caribbean. I lived below deck. That was my life. I worked on charter boats and had the best time. And, really saw a lot of the world and met a lot of interesting people, but definitely got island fever. Yeah. And, there's a definite, like, half of me is a little daring and crazy, and the other half of me is very responsible. So I think I was starting to get like, I should probably go home and find a real job and start wearing shoes and see how that goes.
See how it goes.
So yeah, honestly, I was on my way to an interview for a porta potty company.
No.
And I got a phone call that said, oh, hey, this is back in the day when you would mail your resume in. Hey, we got your resume and we'd love to have you interview. They didn't say who they were. And they said, but we have a really small office, and it was closer than the other job. And I was like, I'm going there.
Yeah.
I had literally borrowed a pair of like kitten heels for my mother, bought a top, and I somehow found a skirt and got myself presentable for an interview. And when I got there, the first thing I saw was Paulina Porizkova in a framed picture. And I was like, where am I? And that was that. It was a great job. I mean, Estee Lauder is an amazing company. For a kid that had a lot of ambition, but not a lot of, experience or otherwise.
Yeah.
They really, laid the foundation for an incredible career to come.
Yeah. And from porta potties to Estee Lauder, that's quite a story.
That was I'm so glad I didn't leave 5 minutes earlier. God only knows where I'd be right now.
Right. Well, speaking of which, I mean, look where you are today. And before we get specifically to the work that you've done and the work that you've been doing with Credo, what do you think has been the learning that you could impart in terms of getting to where you are in your work life? Is it trusting the journey? What is it? What's the career learning, in your opinion, for you and your journey?
Yeah, I think, and I say this I have a 19-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old son. I say to them now, this whole notion of you guys having to somehow like sacrifice a tremendous amount and like take on these awful jobs because it's somehow leading to some sort of next step. Why?
Yeah.
There's really no reason in today's world that you have to do that. You should just really identify what fills up your heart and gives you a lot of inspiration. And even if it pays you diddly squat, just make sure you're creating your life around that and not around some unattainable goal.
Yeah.
I think for me, what I didn't recognize until later in life was that I was truly an entrepreneur, but I used to beat myself up a lot for like jumping jobs.
Yeah.
But now that I'm older, I reflect back on that and think I was just bored.
Yeah.
I was just really bored. It just, once the learning part is over, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
And once like the kind of every day is different and the excitement of it all kind of wore off, it was really, really hard to get out of bed.
Yeah. Right. I love that. And it's so true. Why suffer? Why go through that when you could be off finding that thing that will make you feel fulfilled and fill you up? That's good. That's profound advice, Annie. And speaking of which, you spoke about having that entrepreneurial spirit. Talk to us a little bit about what led you to Credo, which is huge now. I think it's really setting the standard for clean beauty right now. What's the story there? How did that happen for you?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to start as one of the founding team of Sephora, which was incredible. And my boss was my co-founder of Credo, Shashi Batra. So he and I started at Sephora in 97. And, what's funny is we looked at Credo as this catalyst for what we had experienced at Sephora, what can we take that we had learned from that experience and do it our own way? He was a lot like me in the sense that, he wanted to create a company that had really positive culture. And not to say that Sephora didn't, it's just, it got really big and it grew really fast. And it's like, we didn't always have a lot of say in, how things went or how things happened. So, we really wanted to do it on our own. And I think the other side to that was, he was a true visionary and he saw this freight train coming from a mile away. And, he was really inspired by the organic food movement. And, he put together this idea that, if you're going to really educate yourself on, learning about food and really empowering yourself with where it came from and how it was grown, beauty was like the last spoke in that. And so he also had experienced as the president of Victoria's Secret Beauty, which is about as far away from this as you can get.
Right.
But, he wanted to take a stab at creating a natural line with pink. Mm-hmm. And probably like he called it his worst failure and like wrong time, wrong psychographic, wrong everything. But what inspired him was that he learned there's so much more you can do in terms of product development with natural formulas. And so that was kind of the beginnings of him percolating on this. And then of course we had all lived in San Francisco for many years. It's a really innovative city. It's very progressive and it's thinking, and it's kind of all of that culminated to create Credo. And at the time I was back at Sephora for my second tour of duty. And he was starting to call and he said network. And so I just kept saying, I was about to leave Sephora and take a year off. And I was so excited to do that because I had never, ever not worked since I was like 16 years old. I wanted to hang with my kids and just see what that was like. And so I said, I gave him a couple of names, sounds interesting, but thanks, no thanks. And so as the months progressed, he, finally, got me to sit down and really think about what his vision of Credo was at that time. And so I said, let me, do some digging. And like, I am kind of getting bored at this point. I was like 3 months into my 1 year. And I said, why don't I just start checking out some brands? We're true merchants at heart. Let's check out some brands and actually see if we can fill a store.
Yeah.
And so what I learned very quickly was, you kind of probably hear everyone's like aha moment in this space. Mine was more so like WTF.
Yeah.
I have committed my entire career to conventional beauty. And it was kind of like this, whoa, we had never, ever once, much of my career was spent in product development. And never once did we say, it was always about, is the color right? Does it, is it compatible with the component? Does it smell okay? Et cetera, et cetera. Never, what is this?
Yeah.
Has it been tested for human health? What's its end of life? And what happens when it goes into the environment?
Yeah.
Those conversations were never being had. And I kind of like felt bad.
Yeah.
To be honest. And so I started digging around, and what became evident as I'm like any consumer, trying to understand this space. And I said to him, I think this is really interesting. I think you're really onto something, but it has become very clear. We're going to need like a very clear standard. It can't just be some BS, like, we're going to do this, because there's some really scary stuff in some of these products. And so it kind of went from there, but,
and I want to talk to you about the Credo Clean Standard, because I think that has really, really, really made a huge difference in terms of raising the bar and transparency in this space, which is incredible. But I also want to talk to you a little bit about Shashi. And, you speak so highly of him. I know you were very close, and I know he passed away a few years ago. And for such a visionary, how did you move past that incredible tragedy and grief to keep this going without him? That must have been incredibly, incredibly hard.
Yeah, it was. I think the great thing was that we knew each other so well. We had worked in different capacities, different companies, for 22 years. And so I think that was really helpful to me, because I knew what he wanted. And, we always joke that we were like Sonny and Cher. Like he was the visionary, and I was the one that went and did it. And he was always like 2 years ahead of everybody. And I was, in the present, kind of making it all happen. And so, it was really challenging, because he was sick for about 8 months before he passed. And so, that piece was hard, because we were, it was a very critical phase of the company. We had just opened our second store.
Yeah.
And we had made a commitment to our investment partners, our majority owners, that we would get to 10 as quickly as possible. And so, you can imagine we were a team of like 3 people, and Shashi included, and trying to execute something like that while he's very, very ill. So, that was probably, for me, just as hard as this pandemic we've been going through, because every day was just, unknown. And, once Shashi did pass away, we had to kind of, reimagine what we wanted this company to be. And I knew, very early on that my skill set is a merchant. I am happy in stores. I'm happy building stores. I'm happy talking to brands. I'm happy, having these kind of conversations, being in a boardroom and creating PowerPoints, not so much. So we immediately set out to find ourselves a CEO and hired Dawn Dobros. So, some pretty strong female leadership at the helm. And so, we've definitely found our way together. But she had some really big shoes to fill.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
it was,
Sure.
I imagine for her, and I've said this to her several times, probably pretty daunting. You've got a beloved founder
Yep.
that everybody, really looked up to. I always say he could sell paper bags to a paper bag salesman. And, he was like, he would just say the most, normal sentence, but you were like, it's so amazing. I'm
Right.
on board. I'm totally with you. And,
Right.
I felt like, that was, we miss him every day.
And I would imagine that being mission driven, purpose driven also sort of helps you in a way transcend that loss, because you think I can keep doing keep on helping execute his vision. I would imagine that must have helped a little.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's so rewarding. I think what I underestimated was the brand community that we work with. I mean, some of these people have become my closest friends and confidants. But I think what the most exciting thing is, when we started Credo back in 2014, and we were kind of putting the company together, signing on brands and doing all that great stuff, some of these brands were just the founder or the founder in one person, just like us. And now they're like a company that's scaling and they're growing their distribution. And I'm, seeing them out there executing all these amazing initiatives, and they have a teams in store. And, I think the thing to remember is this was a person with a dream. And, they were incredibly inspired for a reason to create what they created, and they did it. Yeah. They kicked its ass. And so I think that's incredibly rewarding. And I would say over 90% of the brands that we carry are founded and or run by females. And that's also, incredibly exciting. Clean beauty is very women dominated, I would say.
Yeah. That's great. And it's become a huge, huge part of the industry. And I think, like I said before, when I was introducing you, the conversation from a media perspective that I think everyone's having right now as it relates to beauty is clean beauty. And so naturally, there will be people that will be sort of detractors of that. And some of the criticism is that there's little transparency, not enough transparency, that data is being cherry picked to support claims that perhaps are based in fear. I'm curious as to what your response to that would be, as somebody who's really paving the way for this movement.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really think of a term or a movement that doesn't have detractors, actually. Yeah,
right.
Like if you take for example, organic, before organic was codified by the NOP, which is the National Organic Program, and by law, most farmers who were out there growing organically, they had similar practices and a similar vision. But, there was definitely people out there using the word inappropriately. We would call that greenwashing. Yep. So that, really fueled a lot of confusion and mistrust. I would say the biggest detractors were the other parties that had, maybe vested interests and were trying to discredit organic, saying that conventional is just as safe for the planet and people and consumers, though it most definitely is not. Yeah. And so the way that Credo defines and strives for clean isn't about fear at all. Yeah. Quite the opposite for us. We're all about building a stronger, safer and more sustainable, more transparent supply chain for ingredients and packaging. Yeah. I mean, I look at us as like systems thinkers at Credo. Yeah. We're working for positive change.
Yeah. Do you think, because I've had a lot of discussions with people, even people in the clean part of clean brands, about the word clean. Do you think that is the most accurate term to describe what you're doing? Because it's really about more than just ingredients.
Yes, it is. I mean, for us, I would just, say that you've probably heard all the buzz and, the murmur out there. Clean doesn't mean anything. Like so many terms, I think it really depends on who you ask. Yeah. Certainly it does not have a legal or regulatory definition. Again, organic would be the only one that probably does. but not many adjectives
Yeah.
used in beauty or any other consumer products do have one agreed upon definition.
Yeah.
But for us, we have laid out what clean beauty means, and
Yeah.
our definition and our vision is the foundation for our standard, our Credo Clean standard. And it's on our website, but it's also a document that guides our company and our, over 130 brands that have to sign it. But at its highest expression, to me and to Credo, and it's on our little, Venn diagram there, it's that clean is the intersection of safety, sourcing, sustainability, and ethics, and then just being really transparent about all those things.
Yeah.
So, I think if you had Sephora up here with me, and Ulta and Blue Mercury and any of our brands that we share, or any brand, everybody would agree that is what we're trying to make the distinction of. Yeah. And I think what's so positive is conventional brands are watching, and I come from conventional. So I'm certainly hearing from my friends in conventional beauty, hey, Annie, can you give me that sustainable packaging guidelines, or, your vetted supplier list? Because when I go to make my next palette, I'd like to use a high PCR content. I'm like, yeah, here you go. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's intentionally trying to make negative steps or harm the planet, or, potentially use ingredients that could be harmful to human health. I think it's just, we know more now.
Yeah.
And so now, why not celebrate these brands that are making really positive strides to reduce packaging and have ingredients that are identified as good for people and good for the planet? So clean as a word, I can tell you, I remember the day with crystal clarity that Shashi and I sat in this little room and we were like, clean, it's creepy. Safe, that's really boring. We could not come up with another word. So, what I just described as the meaning of clean, could it have a different word? Probably. Yeah. But, for us, as being one of the founding members of the word clean, it means a lot to us. Yeah. And, oftentimes people will say, like, I don't like it. It makes you sound like everything else is dirty. I'm like, I don't buy that at all. You know what? There's laundry detergent that says it's the freshest out there. Does that mean everything else is the stinkiest? No. Yeah. Right. So it's just, it's silly, honestly. And I think it's a bit of a waste of time.
Yeah. And, one of the things that, I commend the brand for so much is I think you recognized that within the clean movement, there was a lack of diversity, and that, in response to that, you launched an in-house brand, Exa, which actually the foundation won the Oprah Magazine Beauty Award for Best Foundation when it launched.
That was huge. That was huge.
When I was there. And it's so great. It's so great. And I love that you recognize that. And I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit about how, Credo will continue to build on, Exa's success to work, on even more DEI within the brand.
Yeah. So I will just say very publicly, and I've said this in any interview I've done where this has come up, clean beauty is absolutely too white. Yeah. Absolutely 100%. And that was the reason I have been working on Exa and talking about, lack of diversity in shades since 2014, because that was my initial reaction to the space was, I understood brands aren't intentionally like, oh, I want to be 4 shades of white girl, but they were like capital strapped. So what I finally said was, don't do it. Yeah. If you're going to invest in complexion, do it the right way. This pattern, like you and I were talking before this aired, of, this archaic way of doing business and beauty is so over, like to say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come out with a range of foundation, and I'm going to do it in 6 shades of white girl. And then let's see how it goes. And then we'll add more shades. Yeah. That's worse. Like that's saying, I'm going to say you're not for me right now, and I'll let you know if you're for me later. Right. Right. And so I get being capital strapped, but the response to that is then don't do it. Yeah. Because it does take cash. Yeah, it does take cash, but find something else to launch then. Yeah. Because, what we wanted to do with Exa was 2 things. First of all, we have a very diverse staff in our stores, and we are in cities. Yeah. So we have, a very diverse customer walking in, imagine if you're standing in a store and you're told, I'm so sorry, we don't have anything out here that matches your skin.
Yeah.
That is absolutely not acceptable.
Yeah.
And so we did come out with 43 shades in Exa. It's probably one of my most proud moments at Credo, because it took a lot of negotiating with our investors to be sure, they're like, why wouldn't you do skincare? We definitely had those meetings, but that was not an acceptable customer experience, first of all. And second of all, we want a diverse customer in our store. We are saying we are for everyone, but we're really not for everyone.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Yeah.
So, I think Exa is one piece of it, but, the other piece after George Floyd's murder last year and all of the racial and social issues that came, right in our face, as they should have been last year, we launched Credo for Change, because what we realized was, when this first all started happening, I said to myself, well, that's, this is not us. We don't say no to brands because of race. We don't even ask a brand to race their race when they're, it's just an email basically that we're getting. Yeah. But then I said, no, we have to look at this a totally different way, because brands, Black owned, Black and brown owned brands are not submitting to us.
Yeah.
Why? And so it just made me flip our heads around and say, we've got to go out and find them. A lot like we did when we first started Sephora. It was kind of that same, let's go be merchants again. Yeah. And let's go find these brands and tell them they have a place at Credo. Yeah. And so, the other thing that we realized is a lot of brands and finding brands and getting brands into Credo is about, really at the end of the day, our network. And who are we? A bunch of white chicks. Right. And so what's our network going to be? And so that was the other piece to this. And we realized we wanted to launch what's called Credo for Change, which is a mentorship for Black and brown owned founders, because we realized there was a total inequity in the whole networking aspect. And so if there was a way that we could use our experience, get them some exposure, get them, out there in front of investors and, branding companies, and just us to say, this is what it takes to be successful at retail. So before you spend a ton of cash, can we help you, kind of avoid pitfalls? Right. And so our second session is about to, I think our applications go live on Thursday, and it goes from August to December. And we choose about less than 10 this year, I think 8 to 10 in our cohort. But it's incredible. It's incredibly valuable for us, but the friendships that have come out of this has been incredible, and just, we've learned a ton.
I love it. I love it so much. Want to circle back to sustainability, because you brought it up, and it is really such a huge part of where the conversation around clean is heading. And my question is, how does a consumer goods company like Credo sort of square with the idea that we want to address sustainability, but ultimately we're producing more things, or we're selling more things to people? And isn't that the real problem that needs to be addressed? How do you sort of square with those two statements? Are they mutually exclusive?
Well, yes, I think I agree with you, and you would get anyone in Credo to agree with you that there's just too much. Yeah. It makes me uncomfortable how many brands we see. I think we counted the other day, I think we get about 50 brand submissions a month. Wow. There's only 3 of us in merchandising. Wow. And those are the ones that we've said, you're compliant, and we would love to evaluate your brand. Yeah. That's a lot, you guys. There's so many brands out there. And the fact that brands are still pitching us saying we couldn't find what we were looking for, so we created our own brand. Really?
Right.
You couldn't?
How is that possible? Right.
Yeah. So yes, I think, fewer things, fewer production of things is absolutely the answer. Yeah. But the realistic side of things is we do have stores filled with 135-ish brands. Yeah. And to me, the first most obvious step was, once we, obviously got our standards solidified, and those standards were basically just saying, we want to operationalize clean. We want to take it and make it mean something, and go beyond a restricted substance list, and actually say, actually you have to test your products for safety. Do you guys know that any product on a shelf today doesn't have to be tested for safety? I mean, that was like another mind blower for me when we started Credo, and I had come from beauty.
Yeah.
I was like everybody else, like someone out there is watching over us. No,
Right.
we're not.
Right.
So, we're saying just be responsible, test your products for safety, back up claims on your packaging. Don't be clean washing. Don't be greenwashing, follow the inky guidelines, all that good stuff. So that was our standard. And the one piece that stood out that was like the big black hole that was missing was packaging.
Yeah.
Here we are, having these high standards and kind of patting ourselves on the back for it. But, at the end of the day, we had brands out there using double walled virgin acrylic plastic.
Yeah.
And that's just not the right thing to be doing.
Right.
And so what we said was, okay, let's just step back here and say, we know that beauty, our contribution to packaging production and waste is massive.
Yeah.
And, we are ready to make real actionable commitments in this space and reduce our impact on it. Yep. And so, basically our sustainable packaging guidelines that we came up with is really kind of in a big picture, threefold. It's about, smarter design, sustainable sourcing, and, really optimizing for a product's end of life. But the first step to that is eliminating all single-use plastic.
Yeah.
So that starts in June 1st.
Wow.
And so that means, taking the really scary step of saying all those sampling paquettes that, beauty has relied on since, the 30s, 40s, whenever Estee Lauder started like shaving off her little lipsticks and putting them in a little container for people,
right.
All of that is going away. And little tiny Credo created 660,000 paquettes last year that will never, ever, ever leave this planet.
Yeah.
Will take a really long time to leave this planet.
Yeah.
So, we just thought that's not upholding the values of who we are.
Yep.
And so when you look at it though, it's scary. Like when your business head gets on your shoulders and says, okay, well, all these products that are sheet masks and we're selling a ton of them equate to this really big number. It's really, really scary to eliminate all of that from our business. But that's why we're here. Yeah. And we hope that, like with our Credo Clean Standard kind of started this, sea change for others to follow, which we're super proud of because, anyone that's committed to putting safer products on their shelves we're a fan of theirs for sure. I think, this is where we want our brands to say, okay, we're at Credo, we're following their packaging guidelines, but hey, partner at Sephora, you guys should stop creating samples and we're going to stop creating them and stop giving them to you too. Those are the changing conversations that we want to have happen. Don't just do it for us.
Amazing. And I'm just reminding everyone, if you have any questions for Annie, please leave them in the chat and I will try to get to as many of them as I can. In the meantime, I have plenty of questions for her, so we'll keep our conversation going. Annie, you mentioned the Credo Clean Standard, and I just want to take this opportunity to really sort of drill down what that is. So for everyone who is unfamiliar, this is sort of, I guess, the guideline by which you use to evaluate the brands that find their way onto Credo shelves. In addition to the safety testing that you recommend, that you enforce, the sustainability, what are some other parts of the clean standard that maybe we haven't talked about that are integral to it?
It's really like a toolkit for our brand. So it's, expiration dates on your product, working with, manufacturers that are ethical and producing products the right way, following ingredient guidelines. When you guys pick up a package, you should see something using the universal nomenclature language. So it's usually in Latin, and then in parentheses, it says the English word, and it's an order of the amount of ingredients all the way going down to the least amount. It should be the end. A lot of times you'll see like a brand that's got like, and a proprietary blend of essential oils. That's not inky guidelines.
Yeah.
You want to put exactly what's in there. And then, the biggest piece to it and the heaviest lift for us was fragrance. Yeah. And, that was a big one for us because it's a trade secret. You don't have to disclose what's behind that word fragrance. But, as a sitting person on the Breast Cancer Prevention Partners Leadership Circle, when I sit and I listen to these congressional briefings about the 1,000 plus ingredients hidden from a customer's point of view, or just from their view on what's behind that word fragrance and how many of them are known carcinogens that they are putting onto their skin and inhaling, that's frightening to me. And that should be disclosed, and a customer should know what they're buying. So for us, our first step was to say, okay, you have to, labeling law says you have to have that word fragrance on there, but we want you to footnote it and put it on our website and put it on your website. What is that fragrance? Is it synthetic? Is it natural? That's like a mandatory. But what we're really encouraging you to do is fully disclose. Like, what's the big secret?
Right.
Like, what is your big secret? And so for us, it was like, you can't be a clean beauty brand and then be like, but I'm going to keep this one to myself and I'm not going to tell anyone what's in it. So that wasn't upholding who we were. And that was probably the biggest piece to it. The reality is a lot of brand founders are working with contract manufacturers, and they're like, no, we're not going to tell you. It's not the brand founder that doesn't want to tell us. It's the people they're buying the formula from.
Yeah.
So that's been harder. And so, we started with just categorize it. So a customer's like, hey, if I don't want to buy synthetic fragrance, why do I have to like go through a million steps to find out if that's even in here? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. We got a question in the chat that I think is a good one. And it's about the sample packets that we were talking about both before this conversation began and here while we were live. And the question really is they're wasteful. 100%, but aren't they in some ways useful to consumers, and don't they in some ways help a consumer make a more informed purchase that they'll really stick to versus one that, hey, maybe they'll just toss that in the trash? And there's no real perfect answer or solution to any of these problems really, but I'm just wondering what the response is to that. Is it sort of a lesser of two evils, do you think?
Well, we still want to definitely be helpful to our customers. So, and help them make these decisions. So we used to take our testers, and, our stores are smaller. So we are able to, with the pandemic, we're recognizing that, hygiene and safety are top of mind. We are able to really assist our customers. We're not like a, 5,000 square foot store, so we can see what's happening in the store. But I will say, if a customer wants to sample something in one of our stores, we have sourced an upcycled green tea leaf jar that has a shelf life of 3 years. You can put that sucker in the dishwasher and actually take a tester and make the sample. Because that was actually what we did the most of. Because if someone like you came into the store, Brian, you're like, I really want to try that cleanser. And so we're like, here, we'll sample it for you, try it, and tell us what you think. Online, what was happening was you're shoving free stuff in someone's face and they're like, sure, I'll try that. And 9 times out of 10, they're tossing it and they don't even really want to try it.
Right.
So you can't have exactly what somebody wanted. So online, we're offering right now loyalty points in lieu of sampling as soon as that goes live. But like I said before, I think the pandemic is forcing us to sell beauty products a different way. And, all our stores closed for months last year, and a lot of, everybody in retail was in the same boat, but yet we learned how to, drive our business through words and through talking to customers and explaining and really hearing their concerns. And our return rate did not go up.
Wow.
And so, it's like, that's why I was saying it's exciting, because it's kind of like a Jenga puzzle. Like, what can we learn from this? And how can we still service our customer to the highest possible level, but also not create a new regrettable big problem or keep contributing to a big problem?
Sure. This, I think, will be a quick question. If someone's interested in applying for Credo for Change, is there a way to do so on your website?
Yes. So we have in the footer of our website, it says Credo for Change at the bottom, and you just click on that. But the application goes live on Thursday.
Okay, great. Yeah. So you heard it here first. My next question, I think, is going to answer one of the questions that came up just now in the chat, which is, in addition to an adherence to the Credo clean standard, What are other things that you look for in these 50 or so brand submissions that you get every month? What makes the team say that's someone that we might want to really work with?
Aside from, needing the brand in the store, because we only have 135 brands, so not a huge amount, but the founder.
Yeah.
For us, like our customer is very squarely shopping with a lot of, she wants to know a lot about that brand. And it's beyond just, is this brand for my skin concern and does it meet my needs? It's like, who is this founder? I'm going to scope them out on social media. I'm going to see the kind of things they say.
Right.
I'm going to see where they're from. I'm going to see if I like them. And then I'm like, oh, they align with my values. Check, check, check. I'm going to buy it. And that's very much how the consumer shops today, whether she's shopping for beauty or clothes or beer. It's very much like their mindset. Like, I am a person that's voting with my wallet.
Right.
And these are the things that are important to me. And I want to make sure that this brand isn't a BSer, like, do they really have values that align with who I am? And if so, I will support them. So for us, the founder is a huge part of it. And, at Credo, we've had a rule since day one. Shashi and I said, no a-holes. So like, we only work with nice people.
I love it.
Nice people only. And, people that like, we want to create a community of brands, and all our brands have become friends with one another, and they collaborate and share resources. And that's what we want.
So for budding entrepreneurs, have a story, have a connection to your brand, and don't be an a-hole.
Yes, exactly.
Amazing.
Because you know what? You just have to be a nice person.
I would agree with that. Eddie, this flew by. I cannot believe how fast this went by. I feel like I could talk to you forever, but I think I only have enough time for one more question, which is insane. But I want to first thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. This has been fun. I loved it.
What a joy. The feedback we're getting in the chat has been amazing. And I guess I'd love to leave everyone with this. Innovation is such a big part of beauty. It's one of the things I love so much about covering beauty from a media perspective. In terms of innovation, what's exciting you right now? What's getting you inspired that you really can't wait to run back to the rest of the Credo team and say, oh my gosh, we have to talk about this?
Color cosmetics.
Yeah.
I mean, it has come so far and it's moving so fast that it's like, it gets me like chicken skin, because it's like, it's so exciting to see like these brands. And I'm like, there's no way that's clean. That's no way that's, meets our standard. And it does.
Right.
And so I think, the one thing I would say is, I think where people get a little tripped up is, sometimes they just take clean at face value and they're like, oh my God, there's so many synthetics in this product. We don't have a problem with synthetics.
Yeah.
We're not all about that. It's about safety and where the source is, because the reality is like the conversations that we're having that are not so fun is, what has this space and this intense focus on plants done to plants from a sustainability standpoint? Like no one's really double checking and recognizing, oh yes, this plant, the regrowth plan is this, and I know that I can get this ingredient from here. Like none of that's happening. And that's very scary. And if it can be reproduced in a lab, in a synthetic way and make it better for the planet, why not? There's nothing wrong with that. There's only wrong with synthetics if it's harmful to you, and if it's harmful to the planet and the environment as soon as that product's like dumped in the trash.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, we launched something called Pact on Earth Day, and that's where a bunch of beauty industry stakeholders got together and said, we're going to create a very transparent beauty recycling program, even including the tiny things that don't usually get caught in local municipalities. And we're going to recycle it. And hopefully the end result of that is circularity, and actually, sending all this plastic to manufacturers to then turn it back around and make componentry out of it. So we just launched that, but that, you talk about garbage all day doesn't sound very sexy, but it's kind of what we do. And it gets really exciting because, the kind of minds around the table have really interesting ideas, and it's all for good change. So I think that's what gets me excited.
Amazing. Annie, again, thank you so much. This
Thank you.
was great. We so appreciate your time. And again, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I think there's one final session before we close out the day. So thank you for being here. And if you weren't able to catch this, or all of it, come back to glamhive.com to get the video recorded one. And Annie, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. It was great meeting you. Thanks, everybody.
Likewise. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.